Hi, I'm Debbie Homer-Hofhines, and I am here with DJ Anderson, who happens to be our Floriani software and design specialist. It's great to be here again to kind of give you some more ideas and techniques. So DJ, I thought today it would be so fun to take blocks and show how to join them together.
I think that'll be really fun. I'm really excited about this because, I've helped to design a lot of quilt blocks, but I've never sewn any blocks together. I've never really seen them put together. So I'm excited because I feel like this is going to help me get a better understanding of how to assemble these. So
it's an
excited.
Awesome technique, and we have been teaching hands-on classes now for dealers across the country now for the last, almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And in those hands-on classes that we do for the dealers, we get to do 6 projects in 2 days, but 3 of those projects happen to be quilt blocks. So now you have these quilt blocks, and everybody has these stack of quilt blocks. How am I going to put them together? It's so simple. And if you look at the ones here on the table, you can see, and here's just a couple that I've done using our quilting designs, and looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It looks perfect.
All right, so here's how we're going to do this.
Okay.
Now, I started on these blocks, and this happens to be our micro thread. I got to throw that in because I'm in love with our micro thread.
I love it too. It just, that whole design, I mean, because I know what it looked like originally before we had micro thread, and once we got the micro thread, we stitched that out, and I was just amazed because of that butterfly right in
You
here.
couldn't see it before.
You couldn't see it before, and all of a sudden now with the micro thread, it just pops.
Yeah, it's darling. All right, so here, these are just blocks that I just did testing on. So I thought, well, I'm going to join these, and we'll show how we're going to do this. So this is actually called sashing, just so you know.
Okay.
All right, so you're going to get a whole quilting lesson, okay?
I know, I've heard that word before.
Okay. All right, so if you'll notice, this is probably about 1 inch. So it takes 2 pieces of fabric of sashing to join 2 blocks. So in order to end up with 1 inch, I've cut my sashing 2 inches wide. And then of course, it would be the length of my block. Okay? Now I've done this one to kind of show how this works. But it's so simple. You could even do this, DJ.
I don't know about that.
Oh, you could. It's so easy. All right, so you're going to take the right side of your first strip and you're going to lay it on the top. You're going to take your second strip of the right side, put it on the back. So the right side is to the wrong side or the back of your block.
Gotcha.
And the right side to the right side of the top of the block. Now, what we need to do is sew these 3 layers together, okay? Now, a lot of your quilters are 1/4 inch seam on everything, and I don't do this with a 1/4 inch seam. And it's important that you do a 1/2 inch, because if you don't do a 1/2 inch, it won't work out. And you're going to understand this here in just a minute, all right?
Okay.
All right, so let's take these 3 layers over here.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you, do you want to do this?
I don't know. Me behind the sewing machine, I don't know how that would go.
Come on, I know you could do this. All right, so I know that the 1/2 inch mark is just right to the edge of that circle because I've already measured it, okay? All right, so I have my 2 pieces all lined up here, and I just have to lower my presser foot, and I'm just using a simple straight stitch is all I'm doing.
Okay.
So I'm just going to sew this seam, and I don't worry about back tacking because we're going to sew through this enough times that it'll be fine. I'm just going to follow my line all the way down, and again, I'm not going to worry about back tacking, so I'm just going to cut this off. Okay, so you can see that I have my seam allowance is about 1/2 inch there, and I have my 2 layers together. There's the right side and there's the right side. So what I do next is I go over to the iron, excuse me, and I'm just going to press these over so that we can actually, it'll lay much nicer to start with. Okay. So I'm just going to press, In fact, I'm going to leave this one on the bottom just like it is, folded back. And I'm just going to kind of press this one over, and I just kind of go along that seam there just so it'll lay flat. I'm not going to worry about this little guy yet, because what we're going to do now is sew our next block on just to the one piece.
Okay.
Are you following me?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So we're taking the right side of our material now, and again, we're going to put it to the back of the block and line this up. Now, again, we need to be sure we get that 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you're going to understand why in just 1 second. So let's go back to the machine here, and we'll sew our other 1/2 inch seam allowance. You could do this, you know. All you have to do is push on the pedal. Follow the line. I know you can, DJ.
I don't know.
All right, here we go. You know, some of the best quilters in the world right now are men.
I'll have to learn how to sew. You'll have to teach me.
There we go. Sounds like a great idea to me. Okay, now that we have this sewn, this is what it looks like on the back.
Oh, wow.
Awesome,
Wow,
huh?
yes.
This is a really cool technique.
Oh, that's really neat.
Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to press this so it lays flat. Now here's the cool thing with this. If we had not done our seam allowance as a 1/2 inch, this would not butt up nice and perfectly together. We would have had to have gone and cut like some 1 inch pieces of our batting to fill that in. And this is the beauty, it actually fills that in perfectly.
Yeah, it does.
So it'll be the same thickness as the rest of our blocks. So here's the cool part. We now need to take care of this piece because we need it to come over and look nice and smooth. So I'm going to bring it back over to my iron.
Okay.
And I'm just going to make sure that's pressed over on the seam really well. And I just discovered this little trick kind of by mistake, because we need to fold this edge over scant a 1/2 inch. But what I found, DJ,
You
is
just threw another word out at me that I've never heard before.
what was that?
Scant? Is that what you
Scant.
said?
Okay, scant. And quilters use it a lot. Scant, scant a 1/4 inch, scant a 1/2 inch. It means not exactly. It may be shy. It may be over.
Okay.
Scant.
I'm gonna
Doesn't
use,
have to. Oh, yeah.
Can I use that for other purposes?
Yeah,
that
you
word?
can.
Okay.
Okay, I want you to take this raw edge now, and we're going to butt it up right next to the edge of the seam allowance.
Oh, wow. So that makes it really easy to
I don't even have
figure
to
out
measure it.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Okay, anything that's easy. So I'm just going to butt that up. I'm going to make sure I press that down good. And I don't measure it to see what it is because it doesn't really matter, because I know this is exactly what I have to have.
Wow.
But look at the cool part, DJ. When this opens up, look how that just comes over perfectly.
Oh, wow.
And lines up.
Exact same size as the one before.
Isn't that awesome?
Wow, that looks really
and
nice.
here's our back. Well,
Already
now we need to sew this down. So what would be the first thing you think you'd have to do?
Well, I mean, you're definitely going to have this kind of down on there.
And
like
you'd
pin
probably pin it like crazy, right?
Yes.
I know
would
you would
think
pin it like crazy. Guess what? I don't even have to use any pins. And here's what happens when you pin it. I don't care how many pins you put in this. When this feeds through the feed dogs, it wants to slide, 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 and make this edge come out longer. It never holds it totally. It's just a natural because it always feeds it differently, all right, the top and the bottom. Well, the coolest thing, we have the most awesome product called Applique Wonder Tape. This happens to be fusible on one side.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pressure-sensitive paper.
So I get it. So you're going to stick it and you're going to press it and it's going to hold it down perfectly still. So when you do it, it's not going to, when you sew it, it's not going to push it.
DJ, it is so awesome. The first time I did this, I got so frustrated because I was making a snowflake quilt and I had to line them all up while hanging. No matter how hard I tried and how many pins I put in there, it just pushed it and it was off. And then all of a sudden the light bulb went on. It's like, oh my gosh, why don't you use this? This will work so great. So we're gonna take this seam allowance that we just pressed, and I've taken our 1/4 inch applique Wonder Tape, and I'm gonna press that, DJ, right along this seam allowance. This is the coolest stuff. This stuff is fantastic. And when you press this, you kind of have to use a little bit of force and let it heat through.
Okay, so I can see you're holding it for a couple seconds, a little bit, just to make sure it gets bonded.
A good bond there. Besides, I've got it on a towel too, so it's not like using an ironing board, but it does take a second. Probably the most important thing on this is to be sure you let this cool.
Okay.
Before you start to peel it off. And let's just take our scissors and we'll cut the excess off. Now, why this is cooling, DJ, I'm going to tell you that there'll be times, you may have it off just a little bit, like right here. When we get all done, we'll even these all up and square them and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so now that this is cool, we'll come back and we're going to peel our paper off. So DJ, why don't you take and fold that over?
Fold it over, okay. And try not to stick it to my fingers now. Okay, so we'll just...
It has a pressure sensitive, so it's got the sticky on the other side. But so what that does now, you don't even have to have one pin in this at all. It's going to hold it nice and secure. Isn't that so great?
That is really neat.
Okay, so we're going to top stitch this down.
Okay.
So let's come back over here. Now when I do top stitching, I like to lengthen my stitch length. It's 2.5 is what the normal setup would be for your machine. I increase mine to 3 because I like it to look a little bit prettier, a little bit longer. And this time I'm just going to follow on the edge. And what you need to do is just actually top stitch each side. But look how that folds. It's just holding it nice and secure. It's not moving on me at all. And when you notice, it's going to be absolutely straight across this edge here. Of course, we're going to trim that off. Doesn't that look great?
It does.
So we'll just do the other side here.
I'm glad you're doing this, because if I was doing this, the line would probably be all crooked. And I would ruin your sample.
No. I don't think so. And you need to try this because it's not hard.
I will. I have a couple blocks I've already made, and so I'll have to do this and put them together.
Isn't that great?
That's really good.
Looks good, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, so what if we want to join more blocks? What if we want to take now and do rows?
So you mean one below it or above this one? Okay.
Create what we've done here. So let's put these over here to the side so you can kind of see what we're talking about.
I would assume you could do the same technique then, exactly the same, using a 2-inch.
Exactly. Okay. So you would join all of your blocks for that row. Then you would come back and you would cut your 2-inch pieces the length of whatever you're joining.
Okay.
You can see how we've sewn it on there just like
on
we did
sides.
before. So now we would take and we would sew it to the back. Now you want to be sure though that when you do, the very first thing is you want to match these little guys.
Oh yes.
It doesn't look too good to not have them be straight. And you're going to do exactly the same thing.
I think I could actually do that.
I do think you could too.
I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult to put these blocks together. So
not at all. Not at all. And the great thing, I just can't stress enough that this is the answer, is our Applique Wonder Tape. Because fusing that on just alleviates you from having to pin it. It holds it perfectly. It doesn't have any little puckers where the pin is. It works wonderful.
Well, that was easy. That was fun.
Did you learn something?
We'll definitely learn something.
All right.
Now all I need to do is get you to move back to Knoxville so that we can go and you can teach me all these techniques. And
well, talk to Ricky.
Yeah.
It's been fun to be here again and to show you another idea to be able to make your life a whole lot easier. Thank you.
Thank you.